I never thought I'd find love while face-planting into someone's breasts on a city bus. But life has a weird way of working out. That Monday morning, I was already running late for my first therapy group session. Another brilliant suggestion from my divorce lawyer who insisted I needed to process my feelings. Yeah, right. The Corpus Christi summer heat was already suffocating at 9 a.m. as I rushed to catch the Route 7 bus. My garden design portfolio clutched against my chest like a shield. I kept checking my phone. Being late to group therapy seemed like a perfect way to draw unwanted attention to myself. "Last stop before Ocean Drive," the driver announced, and that's when it happened. The bus screeched to a halt, sending me flying forward. Instead of meeting the dirty bus floor, I crashed into something soft, or rather, someone. A tall blonde woman caught me, her arms wrapping around my waist with surprising strength. "Careful there, darling," she said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. I looked up into the bluest eyes I'd ever seen, framed by loose blonde waves. I usually prefer to know a woman's name before getting this close. My face burned as I straightened up, smoothing my wrinkled blouse. "I'm so sorry. I'm Stephanie Walker and I'm incredibly clumsy, apparently." "Imogen Reed," she smiled, helping me gather my scattered papers. "You're a garden designer?" she asked, glancing at my portfolio. "Yes, though lately it feels more like I'm designing my life from scratch," I admitted, not sure why I was being so honest with a stranger. "Headed to therapy, actually." "Dr. Santos's group?" Imogen's eyes lit up. "I used to attend. It helped after my last breakup." She pulled out a business card from her purse. "I own Coastal Blooms on Water Street. Stop by sometime. Seems we might have more in common than just falling into each other." The therapy session was a blur of uncomfortable chairs and awkward introductions. Dr. Santos, a warm-faced woman in her 40s, guided us through sharing our stories. But my mind kept drifting to Imogen's card, burning a hole in my pocket. After the session, I found myself in front of Coastal Blooms, pretending I needed flowers for a client. The shop was a riot of colors and scents, with Imogen in the center of it all, arranging a stunning bouquet of tropical flowers. "Stephanie," she grinned, setting down her scissors. "I hoped you'd stop by. Coffee?" There was something about her confidence that both intimidated and attracted me. As we sat in her small office, surrounded by order forms and flower catalogs, she asked about my divorce. I found myself opening up about Mark, about feeling lost at 34, about questioning everything I thought I knew about myself. "Sometimes the best gardens grow from completely turned-over soil," Imogen said, touching my hand briefly. That simple touch sent unexpected shivers through me, and for the first time since my divorce, I felt something bloom inside my chest, something that scared and excited me in equal measure. When I left the shop that evening, I had a coffee date scheduled for the weekend, and a strange flutter in my stomach that had nothing to do with anxiety. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Santos reminding me about next week's session, but somehow, I had a feeling my healing might come from a completely unexpected direction. The next few days, I found myself inventing reasons to visit Coastal Blooms. Each time, I'd pretend to browse through exotic flowers, while stealing glances at Imogen arranging bouquets with those skilled hands of hers. I'd never noticed how intimate flower arranging could look until I watched her work. "You know," she said during my third visit that week, "if you keep pretending to need flowers for clients, you'll run out of fake projects soon." Her knowing smile made me blush. "Why don't we make it official? I could use a garden designer's perspective for some of my high-end clients." That's how we ended up collaborating on Mrs. Henderson's backyard renovation project. The wealthy widow wanted a romantic garden sanctuary, and working alongside Imogen made me understand exactly what that meant. Every time our hands brushed while discussing plant placement, every shared glance over the client's excessive requests sent jolts through my system I couldn't explain away. "You're different around her," Claire, my best friend, commented over lunch, "more alive somehow." I hadn't told her about the confusion swimming in my head, about how watching Imogen bite her lip in concentration made me forget to breathe. The project took us late into evening sometimes. One night, after finally perfecting the rose arbor design, Imogen pulled out a bottle of wine from her office mini-fridge. "You deserve this," she said, pouring 2 generous glasses. Though I must admit, I had ulterior motives for suggesting we work together. The summer breeze drifted through the shop's open back door, carrying the scent of jasmine. Imogen sat close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral with a hint of spice. "What ulterior motives?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to know if what I felt on that bus was just in my head, she said, her fingers trailing along the edge of her wine glass. That spark when I caught you. My heart hammered against my ribs. I've never. I started, then stopped, unsure how to continue. Been attracted to a woman before? Imogen finished, her blue eyes soft in the dim light. It's okay, Stephanie. Sometimes the heart knows things before the head catches up. Her hand found mine across the table, our fingers intertwining naturally. The touch sent warmth spreading through my entire body. I'm scared, I admitted. Not of you, but of what I'm feeling. It's like everything I thought I knew about myself is changing. Change can be beautiful, she said, thumb brushing across my knuckles, like watching a garden grow. You can't rush it, but you can nurture it. We talked until midnight, sharing stories between sips of wine. She told me about coming out in college, about her first heartbreak, about building her business from scratch. I found myself opening up about my marriage, how I'd always felt something was missing but could never name it. When we finally said goodnight, standing in the empty shop surrounded by flowers, Imogen reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gentle touch made me shiver. Whatever this is, she said, we can take it as slow as you need. I drove home that night with my windows down, letting the warm air whip through my hair. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt truly awake. The therapy group had asked us to journal about moments of clarity. Well, I finally had something to write about. That night, I dreamed of blue eyes and gentle hands, of gardens blooming under moonlight, and woke up knowing that whatever path I was on, there was no turning back. The question wasn't if I would kiss Imogen Reed, but when. Let's talk about attraction, Dr. Santos said during group therapy, and my heart skipped several beats. Sometimes, after a divorce, we discover new aspects of ourselves we never knew existed. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair, very aware of how my thoughts kept drifting to Imogen. The therapy circle suddenly felt too exposed, too intimate. A woman across from me shared her story about falling for her female yoga instructor, and I found myself holding my breath. Stephanie? Doctor. Santos's gentle voice pulled me back. You seem distracted today. Would you like to share? My voice cracked. I think I'm experiencing something similar. The words hung in the air the first time I'd spoken them aloud. There's someone, a woman, and I'm not sure what to do with these feelings. The group's supportive murmurs wrapped around me like a warm blanket. Dr. Santos smiled knowingly, and I wondered if she'd seen this coming before I did. After the session, thunder rumbled overhead as I walked to my car. The sky opened up just as I spotted Imogen across the parking lot, apparently leaving a meeting nearby. The rain came down in sheets, and she ran toward me laughing. Share my umbrella? She called out, already pulling me under its shelter. We stood close, too close, her arm brushing against mine. Water dripped from her blonde hair, and I fought the urge to brush it away from her face. Come to the shop, she said. Wait out the storm. I just got a new shipment of orchids that needs organizing. The greenhouse behind Coastal Blooms was humid and intimate, filled with the heady scent of tropical flowers. We worked in comfortable silence, our fingers occasionally brushing as we sorted through the delicate blooms. You're trembling, Imogen noticed, setting down a pot of purple orchids. It's not from the cold, I admitted, surprising myself with my honesty. She stepped closer, her hand coming up to cup my cheek. Stephanie, she whispered, I've wanted to kiss you since that day on the bus. The rain drummed against the greenhouse roof as I leaned into her touch. I've never kissed a woman before, I breathed. Do you want to? Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us. Her lips were soft, tasting of rain and mint lip balm. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper as her arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer. Everything felt right in a way I'd never experienced before. We broke apart at the sound of thunder, both breathing heavily. Imogen rested her forehead against mine, smiling. Worth the wait, she murmured. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of stolen kisses between organizing flowers. Each touch felt like discovering a new part of myself I'd kept locked away. When her lips found my neck, I gasped, knocking over an empty pot. Sorry, she chuckled against my skin. Got carried away? Don't apologize, I said, pulling her back to me. The rain continued to fall, creating our own private world in the greenhouse. Later, as we sat drinking tea in her office, reality started creeping back in. What am I going to tell people? I wondered aloud. Imogen took my hand. Whatever you want, whenever you're ready. There's no rulebook for this journey. I told my therapy group today, I admitted, about having feelings for a woman, about you. Her smile lit up her entire face. Proud of you, she said, kissing my knuckles. That night, I lay in bed touching my lips, still feeling the ghost of her kisses. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Sweet dreams, beautiful. See you tomorrow? I typed back yes without hesitation, then added a heart emoji, another first. As I drifted off to sleep, I realized I wasn't questioning these feelings anymore. Instead, I was looking forward to exploring them, one kiss at a time. Of course, Mark would choose the exact moment I was kissing Imogen in her shop to make his surprise visit. The little bell above the door chimed, and there stood my ex-husband, holding paperwork he'd forgotten to give me, his eyes widening at the scene before him. Steph? His voice cracked. What the hell? I jumped back from Imogen like a guilty teenager, but she remained calm, her hand finding the small of my back. Mark, I managed to say, my voice surprisingly steady. You could have called first? Clearly, he said, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that looked surprisingly like amusement. So this is why you've been different lately. I thought you were just happy about the divorce. I am happy, I said, then winced at how that sounded. I mean, I'm discovering who I am. Imogen stepped forward, extending her hand professionally. I'm Imogen Reed. I believe we're making Stephanie very happy. The tension broke as Mark let out a surprised laugh. Well, damn, he said, running a hand through his hair. This explains a lot, actually. He set the paperwork on the counter. Just be good to her, okay? After he left, I collapsed onto Imogen's office chair, shaking. That was not how I planned to tell him. Life rarely follows our plans, Imogen said, kneeling beside me. Want to get out of here? There's something I want to show you. She drove us to the botanical gardens, now closed for the evening. Using her vendor's key, she led me through the moonlit paths to a secluded section she'd helped design. I come here to think sometimes, she said, sitting on a stone bench. Under the stars, she told me about Sarah, her ex who'd left her for a man 3 years ago. She said she was just experimenting. Imogen's voice was quiet, made me feel like I wasn't real, like my love was just a phase for her. I took her hand, understanding her vulnerability. Is that why you've been so patient with me? Partly, she admitted. But mostly because what I feel for you is different. She paused, searching for words. It's like finding a rare flower blooming exactly where it should be. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night insects. I'm not experimenting, I finally said. This feels more real than anything I've ever known. The garden show incident happened 2 days later. We were representing coastal blooms, and in my excitement over winning the Sustainable Design Award, I kissed her without thinking. The whispers started immediately. Did you see? Isn't that Mark Walker's ex-wife? Well, now we know why they divorced. Imogen felt me tense and squeezed my hand. We can leave if you want. No, I said firmly, though my heart was racing. I'm not ashamed of us. Later that night, as we walked along the beach, Imogen confessed her fears. I know this is all new for you. If the attention gets too much. I stopped her with a kiss. I spent years living someone else's version of my life. I'm done hiding. A group of late-night joggers passed us, some staring, others pointedly looking away. Imogen's hand tightened in mine. It doesn't get easier, she warned. The stares, the whispers, the judgment. Maybe not, I agreed. But having you makes it worth it. We ended up at her place, sharing wine on her balcony overlooking the bay. The night air was thick with jasmine from her container garden. You know what's funny? I said, watching the moonlight play on the water. I always wondered why my relationships felt incomplete. Now I know I was just loving the wrong people. Imogen pulled me close, her lips finding mine in the darkness. Not wrong, she murmured. Just part of the journey that led you here. The next morning, I woke to texts from Mark. You seemed happy yesterday. That's all I ever wanted for you. Drink soon? I want to hear your story. Looking at Imogen sleeping peacefully beside me, I smiled and typed back, It's quite a story. You might need more than one drink. Sunday family dinners had always been a Walker family tradition, but this one felt different. My hands trembled as I parked outside my parents' colonial-style house, the weight of my secret pressing against my chest. "You don't have to do this today," Imogen had said earlier, kissing my forehead. But I knew it was time. My happiness was becoming too big to hide. Mom noticed something was different the moment I walked in. "You're glowing, sweetheart," she said, pulling me into a hug. "New man in your life?" I almost laughed at the irony. "Not exactly, Mom. Can we talk after dinner? All of us?" The meal was torture, every bite sticking in my throat as I watched my conservative parents chat about church and neighborhood gossip. My younger sister kept shooting me curious glances. Finally, as Mom served coffee in the living room, I stood up. "I need to tell you something." My voice shook. "I've met someone who makes me incredibly happy. Her name is Imogen." The silence was deafening. Dad's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. "Her?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes," I said, stronger now. "She owns Coastal Blooms. We've been dating for a few months, and I'm in love with her." The chaos that followed was exactly what I'd feared. Dad's face turned red, Mom started crying, and my sister just sat there, wide-eyed. "This isn't you, Stephanie," Mom sobbed. "It's just confusion after the divorce." "I'm not confused," I said firmly. "I'm finally clear about who I am." Dad stood up abruptly. "I need air," he muttered, walking out. I left shortly after, tears streaming down my face as I drove to Imogen's apartment, but when I arrived, something was off. A sleek red car I didn't recognize was parked outside. Imogen opened the door looking flustered. "Steph, This is Sarah." My heart stopped. Sarah, the ex who'd broken her heart. She was stunning, with long dark hair and perfect makeup, looking exactly like the kind of woman who could make someone question everything. "I was just in town," Sarah said smoothly. "Thought I'd check on an old friend." The way she looked at Imogen was anything but friendly. I felt my world tilting sideways. First my family, and now this? "I should go," I said, backing away. "Stephanie, wait." Imogen caught up to me in the parking lot. "It's not what you think, she just showed up." "On the same day I'm coming out to my family?" I laughed bitterly. Perfect timing. "Hey," she cupped my face, forcing me to look at her. "You are the only one I want. Sarah is my past, a past that taught me what real love isn't. You're my future." Later that night, after Sarah left and tears were dried, Imogen and I lay tangled in her sheets, the ceiling fan spinning lazily above us. She traced patterns on my bare shoulder, our bodies still humming from the intimacy we'd shared. "I was so scared," I admitted, "watching Sarah look at you like that. Like she could just walk back in and reclaim you." "Impossible," Imogen whispered, pulling me closer. "You've ruined me for anyone else, Stephanie Walker." My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. "Mom's calming down. Dad asked questions about Imogen. Good ones. Give them time. I love you, sis." Imogen read it over my shoulder and smiled. "See? Love wins. Even when it's complicated? Especially then," she said, kissing me softly. "The best gardens have the deepest roots." Outside, a summer storm rolled in, but wrapped in Imogen's arms, I finally felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Let the world question, let old ghosts appear, what we had was real, and it was ours. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness. Her arms tightened around me. "I love you too, all of you, exactly as you are." The rain fell harder, but inside, we were warm, safe, and completely utterly ourselves. The Corpus Christi Botanical Gardens annual design competition was the kind of opportunity that could make or break careers. When Imogen suggested we submit a joint proposal, her flower arrangements integrated with my garden design, I knew it was more than just a professional collaboration. "Think about it," she said, spreading sketches across her office floor. "Your sustainable native gardens, my exotic blooms. We could create something revolutionary." Working together was intoxicating. Late nights turned into early mornings as we planned every detail. Sometimes we'd get distracted, ending up making out against her desk like teenagers, plant diagrams forgotten. The design we created was bold, a fusion of wild and cultivated spaces that told our story without words. We called it natural evolution, and it became our shared obsession. "You two are disgustingly cute," Claire commented one evening, watching us argue playfully over flower placement. Who knew garden design could be foreplay? The morning of the presentation, I found a single orchid on my doorstep with a note. Ready to show them what love can grow? The judges were a panel of conservative Garden Society members, exactly the type who'd whispered about us at previous events. But when we presented our design, something magical happened. Our passion for the project overshadowed everything else. The way these native species interact with the exotic blooms, one judge marveled. It's like they were meant to find each other. Imogen squeezed my hand under the presentation table. We both caught the metaphor. When they announced the winners that evening, the packed auditorium fell silent. First place, and commission for the new Children's Hospital garden. Stephanie Walker and Imogen Reed. The applause was deafening. In that moment of triumph, Imogen pulled me into a kiss right there on stage. Unlike the garden show incident, this time I heard cheers mixed with the gasps. "That's my girl," Claire's voice rang out above the crowd. The celebration party at Coastal Blooms lasted well into the night. Friends, clients, even some of the judges packed into the shop, drinking champagne among the flowers. My parents surprised us by showing up. "Your father and we've been talking," Mom said, hugging me awkwardly. "The design was beautiful, and seeing you up there so confident, so happy." She glanced at Imogen. "Well, maybe we've been too set in our ways." Dad cleared his throat. "That garden you designed? Think you could do something similar for our backyard? Smaller scale, of course." I fought back tears as Imogen wrapped an arm around my waist. "We'd love to," she answered for us both. Later, we escaped to our favorite spot in the botanical gardens. The night was perfect, stars bright, air heavy with jasmine. Imogen had packed a blanket and more champagne. "Remember our first time here?" she asked, lying back to look at the stars. "When I told you about Sarah? Seems like a lifetime ago," I said, curling into her side. "I was so scared then," she admitted. "Scared you'd run, scared it was too good to be true." "And now?" She pulled me closer. "Now I know some things are meant to bloom no matter what." We made love under the stars, hidden by the gardens we'd come to know so well. It was tender and passionate and perfect, everything our love had become. The next morning, headlines in the local paper read, "Revolutionary Garden Design Breaks Barriers." The article mentioned our kiss, but focused more on our innovative approach to sustainable design. "Look at that," Imogen said over coffee. "They're finally seeing us for our work, not just our relationship." "Speaking of work," I grinned, "we should probably start planning Dad's garden." "Already sketching ideas." She pulled out her notebook. "Think he can handle some exotic flowers mixed in with those Texas natives?" "Baby steps," I laughed. "But he's trying, we all are." As we bent over the designs together, our fingers intertwined naturally. Sometimes the best things in life grow slowly, I thought, taking roots so deeply that nothing can tear them out. The email from Austin's premier landscape firm sat unopened in my inbox for 3 days. Imogen noticed my distraction during our morning coffee routine but didn't push. Finally, on a quiet Sunday morning, I clicked it open. "They're offering me a partnership," I whispered, my hands shaking. "In Austin, leading their sustainable design division." Imogen's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "That's incredible," she said, but I heard the catch in her voice. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, exactly what I'd dreamed of before my divorce, before the bus incident, before Imogen changed everything. Now, the thought of leaving Corpus Christi felt like contemplating voluntary amputation. "I haven't said yes," I started, but Imogen cut me off. "Don't you dare turn this down because of me," she said firmly. "We'll figure something out." But figuring things out got complicated when Imogen's own crisis hit. I found her in her office one evening, surrounded by papers, her usual confidence replaced by obvious distress. "The landlord's selling the building," she said without looking up. "New rent would be triple what I'm paying now. I can't. I don't know how to make this work." The irony wasn't lost on me. Just when I had the opportunity to leave, she was facing the possibility of losing her roots here. What if? I hesitated, then plunged ahead. What if we combined our businesses? The Austin firm wants sustainable design. We could counteroffer with our award-winning partnership model. Imogen looked up sharply. "You'd give up a partnership for that?" "No," I said, moving to kneel beside her chair. "I'd be creating something better. With you." But trust, we discovered, was more complicated than love. Imogen's experience with Sarah had left deeper scars than either of us realized. "What if it doesn't work out?" she asked late one night, as we lay in bed discussing possibilities. "What if mixing business and pleasure ruins everything? What if it makes everything better?" I countered. "We've already proven we work well together." The next weeks were a blur of negotiations, with the Austin firm, with banks, with ourselves. We argued, we made up, we stayed up late running numbers and drawing plans. "You're crazy," Claire told me over lunch, but the good kind of crazy, the kind that changes lives. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a video call with the Austin firm, Imogen started describing our vision for integrated garden floral design spaces. Her passion was magnetic. By the end of the call, they were offering to back our joint venture. "We could keep the Corpus Christi location," Imogen said excitedly, "expand to Austin under their umbrella. Best of both worlds." But there was still something holding her back. I found her in the greenhouse one evening, touching the orchids we'd first sorted together. "Sarah called," she said quietly. "She heard about our success, wanted to reconnect." My heart stopped. "And?" Imogen turned to me, her eyes fierce. "I told her I'm building a future with someone who sees me completely, someone who's never asked me to be anything but myself." She pulled me close, her lips finding mine with desperate intensity. "I'm all in, Stephanie. Business, life, everything. I'm terrified, but I'm all in." That night, as storms rolled in from the Gulf, we made love with a new kind of certainty. Everything was changing, but our foundation was solid. "We should get a dog," I murmured afterward, tracing patterns on her skin. Imogen laughed. "Let's master running a multi-city business first. Then we can talk pets." My phone buzzed. The Austin firm with final paperwork. Imogen read it over my shoulder, her chin resting in the crook of my neck. "Ready to change the world, one garden at a time?" she asked. I turned to kiss her. "As long as we're changing it together." Outside, the rain fell steadily, nourishing all the growing things, including us. 1 year after that fateful bus ride, I stood in our newly designed garden behind coastal blooms, watching Imogen arrange flowers for tomorrow's celebration. Our expansion to Austin had exceeded expectations, but this moment, just us among the blooms, remained my favorite part of any day. "Can you believe it's been a year?" I asked, wrapping my arms around her waist from behind. "Feels like yesterday and forever at the same time," she said, leaning back into me. "Remember when you couldn't even admit you were attracted to me?" "Excuse me, I believe I was very smooth about face planting into your chest." The garden we'd created together was a testament to our journey, native Texas wildflowers mingling with exotic blooms, structured paths giving way to wild, natural spaces, just like us, different yet perfectly complementary. Claire helped me with final preparations that evening, arranging fairy lights through the pergola we'd built together. "She has no idea?" "None," I grinned, checking the small box in my pocket for the 100th time. "Though I'm surprised I've kept it secret this long." The next morning, I told Imogen we were hosting a small anniversary party in the garden. What she didn't know was that everyone important in our lives was already hidden among the plants, waiting. As I led her through the garden path, memories flooded back. Our first kiss in the greenhouse, late nights planning designs, early mornings waking up together. Each step brought us past flowers marking different moments in our relationship. "The orchids from our first greenhouse day," she noticed, touching one gently. "And these roses from the Henderson project." When we reached the center of the garden, fairy lights twinkled to life in the morning sun. Our friends and family emerged from their hiding spots as I dropped to one knee. "Imogen Reed," my voice shook slightly. "You caught me when I was falling, literally and figuratively. You taught me that love isn't about fitting into someone else's garden, but growing together in our own unique way." Tears were already streaming down her face as I opened the box, revealing a ring with a small flower design in sapphires and diamonds. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Cheers erupted as I slipped the ring on her finger. My parents were the first to congratulate us, Dad hugging Imogen while Mom dabbed at her eyes. "Welcome to the family officially," Mom said, embracing us both. The celebration lasted all day, spilling into evening when the garden truly came alive. Fairy lights and lanterns created a magical atmosphere as friends and family shared stories and champagne. "Did you know?" Imogen asked Claire, admiring her ring. "Please, I helped pick the ring." Claire laughed, though keeping this one from spilling the beans for 3 months was the real challenge. Later, as the party wound down, Imogen and I swayed together under the stars, surrounded by the garden we'd created. "I have a surprise too," she murmured against my neck. "Remember that old Victorian on Ocean Drive? The one with the massive gardens?" I pulled back to look at her. "The one we've been dreaming about converting into a home and garden center?" She grinned. "I made an offer last week. It was accepted this morning." "Are you serious?" I gasped. That's perfect." "Our next big adventure," she said, pulling me close again. "A home, a business, a life, everything we've dreamed of." As if on cue, a shooting star streaked across the sky. "Make a wish," I whispered. "Don't need to," Imogen replied, her lips finding mine. "I already have everything I could wish for." The garden around us hummed with night insects and rustling leaves, nature's own celebration of love and growth. We'd created something beautiful here, in our garden, in our business, in our hearts. And this was just the beginning.